I want to cast this piece, but I want it clean. I don't want any vents. That means I'm going to have to use a multi-pour strategy. Before we start, people have commented in the last couple of videos that my voice sounds a little artificial. And that's because it is. I'm running this audio through Adobe Podcast, which is in beta right now. It's an AI that takes your camera audio and improves it. So right now you're hearing the approved version. Right now you're hearing the audio unenhanced. And I think it's a pretty amazing difference. This has the potential to be a really cool tool, and it's a lot of fun to play with, and that's why I'm doing it.
In a single resin pour, no matter how you position this toy in space, you're going to have parts that are sticking up, and those are going to catch bubbles. So your options are to attach vents to all those places, or use a multi-pouring technique, and that's where you position the mold so you can fill different sections of the cavity in successive pours. I cast up this funnel and sprue and I pulled it out in the leather hard stage. That is, it's hard enough to come out of the mold, but it's soft enough to bend the sprue into the desired shape. You can't stand around waiting for the thing to cure, so the simple way to do that is just use some tape to hold it into position until it sets. This vinyl was surprisingly hard to drill, and the piece is hollow, so that's going to make where the sprue attaches to it tend to want to cave in, and I'm pretty sure I'll have to fill that in with putty on the castings. He fits neatly in the box, which I made using my usual method of cutting scrap wood on the table saw and also making a clear plexiglass front.
Okay, the box is made, so now it's time to break out the most magnificent substance known to man, beeswax. I love it with all my heart. It's the perfect sealant. Nothing sticks to it. It works with the rubber. It works with the resin. It's non-toxic. It's got everything going for it. And without bees and beeswax, I don't think humanity could feed itself. So I love it. And I use it on just about every project.
Years into this mold making thing, I discovered that the best way to keep a mold box from leaking was to seal it up with the same rubber you use to fill it with. It's so simple, it's so obvious, but it works so well. I used to have leaky molds, but they're just not a problem anymore. Okay, let's get to pouring. This is a pretty simple shape, and there's not many places on it that can catch bubbles. But still, I'm going to use my good practices and pour from the bottom up. That pushes out the air above the rubber and makes sure you don't trap bubbles. Time to break out the chunkies. We love our chunkies. Chunkies are just pieces of old molds that you shove into new molds to take up space, save money, and recycle old molds. Top it off, and we are done. Then all we have to do is wait 24 hours and come back in, see what we got. The mold is looking good, and I'm cutting it open with a single jagged cut. I'm also cutting the corners off the mold to take the pressure off the rubber bands, and this makes it less likely that the rubber bands will distort the mold.
I made this happy little diagram so that I know exactly how the cavity lays within the mold.
And that's important because I want to fill the horn first, and I'll need to know what position the mold needs to rest in to fill that part of the cavity. I see guys on YouTube going nuts putting rubber bands on their molds. You don't need to. You just need to apply enough pressure to hold the mold closed. All right, let's mix us up some res. This is a fast-setting urethane resin, and I put red dye in it, but it won't be a red casting. The color is always darker in the cup than it is in the casting, so this piece will cure to a nice light shade of pink. So the trick here is to put just enough resin into the mold to fill the part of the cavity you want to do first. I have to turn the mold almost completely upside down to fill the horn. So if I put too much resin in, it will all come spilling out. You just have to experiment until you get the amount right. It took me a couple of tries. This shape is simple and only requires these 2 pours, but you could have pieces that require lots of pours in different directions, and then you've got to be pretty strategic as to what order you cast them in so you fill the cavity properly. Each pour is a separate trip to the pressure pot, so this should be our final casting. Let's yank it and see what we got. Excitement time. Did we win or did we lose? With casting, you don't know until you know. You gotta yank it to see what you got. Let's see. Do-da-do-da-do-da-do-da-do-da-do-da. Come on, baby. Come on, look good. Let's look good. So far, so good. Come on out there. Come on, baby. Oh, yeah. Nice. Hey, pretty clean. I don't see any bubbles. Nice parting lines. Cool. Looks good. Let's get the sprue off, and then we can talk about the one problem that I had with this piece. When I put the sprue in the original toy, it kind of caved in the bottom, and you can see here in the casting that it's kind of dished out. And I think the simplest and easiest way to fix that will be to fill it with epoxy putty. So I got out the E-Put and epoxy putty, and you just basically make a couple of little M&Ms. You've got to be equal size, 50-50 mix. And I've seen guys that can come to a perfect finish with the putty, but not me. I've got to let the putty cure. Then I can use scrapers and sandpaper to bring it to its final shape.
This piece came out pretty cute. I'm really pleased. Hey, if you like this video and you want to support the channel, check out my Patreon. Link is down below. There's also a super thanks button below for a one-time contribution, and your help and your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.
Okay. All right, now I'm going to turn Adobe off. No more podcasts. This is the way it sounds. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful, beautiful audio. One of these days, I'll solve all my audio and my microphone problems, and I won't be having to mess around with all this nonsense that I'm going through. All right, goodbye. See you later. Whatever. I'm off. On to the next one.